What if the pain you feel in your body isn't physical at all? What if it's your thoughts secretly tearing you apart from the inside out? Imagine waking up exhausted every morning, no matter how much sleep you've had, feeling like your life energy is quietly leaking away. Doctors shrug, medications fail, and every supplement seems like just another empty promise. But what if the real disease you carry is invisible? What if your mind itself has become toxic, silently poisoning your cells, slowly destroying your health? We've all been told our thoughts matter, but what nobody tells you is that every single thought rewires your brain. Negative thoughts, those hidden whispers of doubt, fear, guilt, don't just vanish. They carve deep scars into your mind, weaken your immune system, and flood your body with stress hormones. But here's the shocking truth no doctor reveals. You don't have to remain a prisoner of your mind. What if you had the power to rewire your brain, to replace pain with healing, anxiety with peace, disease with vibrant health? What if your next thought could be the medicine you've desperately been waiting for? Today, you'll learn exactly how to unlock this power. Prepare yourself, because what you're about to hear might change everything you've believed about healing your body, mind, and soul forever. Are you ready to discover how to think yourself back to health? Let's dive in. 1. Your body becomes what your mind repeats. Let me ask you something raw. Have you ever looked in the mirror and whispered to yourself, "I'm so tired of feeling like this," but had no idea how to change it? That crushing fatigue, the aches that don't make sense, the tightness in your chest that no test can explain. You've tried the pills, the plans, the prayers, but nothing sticks. Here's the uncomfortable truth no one wants to hear. It might not be your body that's sick. It might be your thinking that's poisoning you, one silent belief at a time. We live with 1,000 unspoken thoughts a day. I'm too old to heal. Nothing ever works for me. I don't deserve to feel better. And every time we think of them, we etch those words deeper into our nervous system like carvings into stone. But thoughts aren't harmless. They're electric. And electricity rewires everything it touches, including you. A Zen monk once told the story of a man who came to the monastery suffering from chronic headaches. He had visited every doctor, taken every test, but nothing relieved the pressure in his skull. The monk offered no herbs, no rituals, only a question. "What have you been thinking but never saying?" The man broke down crying. He had spent years swallowing resentment, betrayals, shame. Within weeks of silent meditation and thought awareness, his pain began to dissolve. Because the body remembers what the mind hides. Your immune system doesn't care about the smile you fake. It responds to the fear underneath. Your gut doesn't respond to your diet plan. It responds to your belief about whether you're safe. And your heart? It beats to the rhythm of the story you tell yourself every single day. So what's your story, and is it killing you? We've been trained to think healing comes from the outside. Green juices, yoga mats, vitamin D. But none of that works if your internal dialogue is still screaming, "I'm broken, I'm stuck, I'm failing." Buddha said, we are shaped by our thoughts. We become what we think. Not metaphorically, literally. In neuroscience, they call it neuroplasticity. Every thought you repeat carves new grooves into your brain, like water cutting through stone. Negative thoughts tighten the amygdala, the fear center, causing stress, inflammation, and disease. Positive thoughts strengthen the prefrontal cortex, your center of peace, clarity, and recovery. So your brain isn't broken. It's just been rewired in the wrong direction, and now it's time to reclaim it. There's a saying in Zen, don't chase the past, don't grab the future, Just rest in the breath you're breathing. Because when you're here, now, fully, your body begins to believe it's safe. And when the body feels safe, it begins to heal. I once met a woman who had battled chronic illness for 15 years. She had spent over $100,000 on treatments. Nothing worked. One day she changed one thing: the way she spoke to herself. Every time the pain came, instead of bracing in fear, she whispered, "I'm listening. You're allowed to be here, but you don't have to stay." And that shift from judgment to compassion was the beginning of everything. Here's the thought trick no one teaches us. It's not about thinking positively. It's about thinking truthfully, but from love, not fear. Try it right now. Take the thought you've been repeating the most. Maybe it's, "I'm so tired." Now ask, what would I rather believe instead? Maybe it becomes, "I am allowed to rest. I am allowed to heal." This isn't fluff. It's architecture. You're building a new inner world, and your body will follow. Because when you change the story, you change the biology. But I know what you're thinking. What if I've been thinking this way for decades? Is it too late? No, because your brain never stops listening, and it never stops changing. Even at 70, even at 90, the mind is clay, and you are still the sculptor. Don't wait until disease forces you to change your thoughts. Change your thoughts and prevent the disease. Or at the very least, soften its grip on your life. This is not about blind optimism. This is about radical power. Because when you stop letting your mind work against you, you'll realize you were never broken. You were just misaligned. The next part of this journey will reveal the beliefs that most people carry without ever questioning, and how they sabotage healing before it even begins. Let's go deeper. You're ready. 2. The beliefs that keep you sick. There's something even more dangerous than negative thoughts. It's the silent beliefs underneath them, the ones you've carried for decades without ever questioning, the ones you didn't choose, but that now control how your body heals or doesn't. And here's the brutal truth. If you believe you can't heal, you won't. Not because it's fate, but because your body obeys what your mind expects. One of the most common phrases I hear from those who suffer is, "I guess this is just how it is now." And every time I hear it, it breaks something inside me. Because that phrase is not a truth. It's a resignation. It's a funeral for your possibility. Your brain is listening. Your cells are listening. When you repeat defeat, your immune system slows, your inflammation rises, and your recovery stalls. In Buddhist teachings, there's a story of a man who visited a monk and said, "I have no control over my suffering. My father was ill. My grandfather was ill. So I must carry the same karma." The monk gently poured tea into the man's cup and didn't stop. Tea spilled over the edge, soaking the table, dripping to the floor. The man panicked. "Why are you doing this?" The monk looked at him and said, "This is what you do. You keep pouring old stories into a cup that's already full, until it overflows as suffering. Your belief system is the cup. And most of us never empty it. We inherit beliefs from parents, culture, religion, trauma. Beliefs like, "I always get sick when I'm stressed. I've never been strong. Healing is for other people, not for me. My body is weak." You don't say these things out loud, but they live in your nervous system. They form the backdrop of how you experience pain, aging, and emotion. Here's the most dangerous part. Most of these beliefs feel true, but they're not. They're familiar. And what's familiar becomes your identity. That's why healing isn't just about removing symptoms. It's about rewriting who you think you are. You can't pour joy into a cup filled with bitterness. You can't feel light if your entire mind is built on shadows. There was a Zen master named Benkei who once taught in a village where people kept falling ill, generation after generation. Instead of treating the illness, he taught them to sit in silence and observe the thoughts that came up whenever they felt pain. What shocked the villagers wasn't the pain itself, it was what their minds whispered in response. "This is what I deserve. I'm a burden. No one cares." And when those thoughts surfaced, some people wept, some screamed, some simply sat in stunned silence. Because for the first time they realized their sickness didn't start in the body. It started in what they believed about themselves. Now I'll ask you, what hidden beliefs are you carrying? Do you secretly believe healing is selfish? Do you believe it's too late? Do you believe you're too broken, too far gone, too tired? Because if you do, you're not sick, you're hypnotized. But there's good news. What's learned can be unlearned. What's wired can be rewired. Even the brain of a 90-year-old can form new connections, build new habits, and release old stories. This isn't hope, this is a fact. But it starts with courage. The courage to admit that the story you've been living might not be yours, that your belief of being powerless may be the very thing keeping your body in chains. So here's a thought trick most people never use. Don't ask, is this belief true? Ask, is this belief healing? If it isn't, it doesn't belong in your nervous system. And if you're thinking, but these thoughts have lived in me for years, how do I change them? The answer is simple. Start small. Every time your mind says, I can't do this, answer with, that's an old story. I'm writing a new one now. Every time you feel a symptom and brace for the worst, say, I choose to believe healing is possible for me. This isn't pretending, it's planting new roots. And when the roots change, the whole tree begins to bloom. Most people will keep living out beliefs that were never theirs, like ghosts haunting a life that could have been free. But you're here, you're aware. And that awareness is the beginning of liberation. Let's go further, because the next part of this journey will teach you the exact mental practice Zen monks use to rewrite pain into peace. You're closer than you think. 3. The thought trick that changes everything. What if I told you that the most powerful healing tool you've ever had isn't a supplement, a doctor, or a diagnosis, but a single thought? Sounds impossible, right? But let me ask you something painful. How many nights have you stared at the ceiling, feeling like a prisoner in your own body? How many mornings have you whispered, I can't do this today, before your feet even touch the floor? What if those exact thoughts are part of what's keeping you unwell? Because here's the truth, they don't print on prescriptions. You are not just thinking thoughts. You are building your biology with them. There's a Zen koan that says, the wild geese do not intend to cast their reflection, and the water has no mind to receive their image. Translation: the mind doesn't need to force anything. It simply needs to become clear, and what appears in it will change. Now imagine this. Every time you think, I'm exhausted, your brain creates chemical responses that match that belief. Your body prepares for defeat, your energy drops, your immunity tightens, and you've just reinforced the exact reality you want to escape. This is where the thought trick comes in. It's not toxic positivity, it's mindful thought replacement, a conscious, compassionate shift from the thoughts that hurt you to those that help you heal. Let's go deeper. The Buddha once said, whatever one frequently thinks and ponders upon, that will become the inclination of their mind. Modern neuroscience agrees. Neuroplasticity proves that your brain is constantly rewiring itself based on repeated mental activity. Every time you think something, you strengthen that neural path. Think it again, and that path becomes a road. Think it daily, and it becomes a highway that your mind travels automatically. But if you built it, you can rebuild it. Let me share a story. A woman I once worked with had suffered anxiety and insomnia for nearly a decade. Every night she would lie awake, her heart pounding, mind racing, convinced she'd never find peace. She tried everything: melatonin, sleeping pills, therapy. Nothing worked. Until she began one simple practice. Every time her mind screamed, "I'll never sleep," she would whisper back, "My body knows how to rest. I am safe now." She didn't believe it at first, but she said it anyway, night after night, over and over again. And something remarkable happened. Not overnight, but slowly her nervous system began to respond. Her chest softened, her jaw relaxed, and one morning she realized she had slept through the night. Because the body listens when you speak from love, not fear. Here's the mistake most people make. They think healing thoughts have to feel instantly believable. They don't. They just need to feel possible. The Zen way is gentle. You don't need to fight or conquer negative thoughts. You simply notice and redirect. Like a parent guiding a frightened child. You don't yell at them. You hold them. You say, "I know you're scared, but we're okay now." You can do the same with your inner world. So let's try this right now. Take the thought that hurts the most. Maybe it's, "I'm never going to get better." Now soften it, shift it, try. Healing may take time, but I'm already on the path. Feel the difference? Your nervous system does, your heart does, and with repetition, your subconscious begins to adopt the new voice as its own. From a law of attraction perspective, this is everything. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you expect. And expectations are built from repeated thoughts. You can't expect health while constantly telling yourself you're broken. You can't expect peace while replaying chaos. But when your thoughts begin to match the reality you desire, the universe listens, and it responds. In Buddhism, there's a beautiful reminder. Your worst enemy cannot harm you as much as your unguarded thoughts. So what if you made today the moment you started guarding them? Not with walls, but with kindness, with awareness, with choice. The most powerful shift you'll ever make may be this: realizing that your next thought is your next medicine. And if you've been waiting for a sign to change the way you think, this is it. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be willing. Willing to stop repeating what hurts. Willing to choose a new sentence. Willing to speak to yourself the way you would speak to someone you love. Because the most healing voice you'll ever hear is the one in your head. Now let's keep going, because in the next part, we'll explore how one ancient emotion, gratitude, can light up every cell in your body, and why most people completely misunderstand its power. This may just be the missing key. 4. Your brain on gratitude. What if the one thing your body has been begging for isn't more sleep, more supplements, or more willpower, but more gratitude? Not the kind you fake when someone brings you soup. Not the polite thanks at the end of an email. I'm talking about real, raw, soul-stirring gratitude. The kind that makes your chest swell, your eyes well up, and your nervous system finally exhale. Because here's a secret most people will never hear. Gratitude is not just an emotion, it's a medicine. Let me ask you something piercing. When was the last time you truly felt thankful for something small in the middle of your pain? Not after it went away. Not once have things improved, but right in the storm? Most people wait to be healed to feel grateful. But in Zen, we flip that. We don't wait for the healing, we let gratitude become the healer. There's a Zen story about a farmer who lost his horse. His neighbor said, "What terrible luck." The farmer simply replied, "Maybe so, maybe not." Days later, the horse returned with 3 wild stallions. Again, the neighbor said, "What great fortune." The farmer replied, "Maybe so, maybe not." Then the farmer's son broke his leg trying to ride one. "Terrible luck," the neighbor said. Again, "Maybe so, maybe not." Then the war broke out, and all young men were drafted, except the son. The moral? You don't know what's good or bad in the moment. But gratitude is choosing to trust that even the storm is preparing the soil for something sacred. That shift from fear to trust, from lack to fullness, changes your chemistry, literally. Gratitude floods your brain with dopamine and serotonin, neurotransmitters responsible for pleasure, calm, and healing. It lowers cortisol, the stress hormone linked to inflammation, insomnia, and chronic illness. Gratitude rewires your brain to scan for safety, connection, and possibility instead of threat and pain. You don't just feel better, you heal better. And this isn't just a Zen belief, it's proven. A study from the University of California found that people who kept a daily gratitude journal for just 3 weeks had lower blood pressure, better sleep, and fewer doctor visits. Why? Because your body listens to the tone of your thoughts. Grateful thoughts say, "I'm safe, I'm blessed, I'm supported." And when your cells hear that, they open, they soften, they rebuild. But let's be honest, gratitude isn't easy when you're in pain. There's an elderly couple I once worked with, married for 52 years. They had both battled illness, he with prostate cancer, she with rheumatoid arthritis. They had lost a child. They had watched their bodies change in ways they never expected. And yet, they glowed. Every night before bed, they held hands and named 3 things they were grateful for that day. Sometimes it was big. We made it through another treatment. Sometimes tiny. The soup was warm today. Sometimes funny. You only snored for half the night. But what happened over time wasn't just emotional. It was physical. His white blood cell count improved. Her flare-ups became less severe. Their sleep deepened. Their connection strengthened. Why? Because they weren't feeding their fears. They were feeding their light. Gratitude turns the volume down on suffering. Not because it denies the pain, but because it gives the pain context. It says, yes, this hurts, but there is still beauty, still breathing, still something to bless. In Buddhism, we speak of santosa, contentment not as complacency, but as a profound acceptance of what is, as it is. Not because it's perfect, but because your resistance to the imperfect is where suffering lives. Gratitude melts resistance. From a vibrational perspective, it is the most magnetic emotion. Gratitude emits the frequency of already having, and what you feel you already have, life gives you more of. Not because the universe is sentimental, because it's responsive. So here's the trick most people miss. If you want healing, feel grateful as if it's already begun. Speak to your body with reverence, not resentment. Treat your breath like a blessing, not a burden. You might say, but I have nothing to be grateful for. I'm in pain. I've lost so much. Then start small. The warmth of sunlight on your face, the way your hands still move, the fact that you're still here reading these words. Gratitude isn't a feeling you wait for. It's a practice you choose. Try this tonight. Before bed, write down 3 specific things you are grateful for. Don't just list them, feel them. Let your whole nervous system absorb the reality that not everything is wrong. Some things, even now, are still right. And sometimes that's enough to begin again. The next part of our journey will take this deeper, because gratitude opens the heart, yes, but meaning sustains it, and nothing heals the body faster than remembering why you want to live in it. Let's keep going. You're doing beautifully. 5. Rewire your mind through stillness. What if the medicine your nervous system is starving for isn't a pill or a therapy session, but one sacred minute of silence? We live in a world drowning in noise, endless alerts, news, worries, mental chatter that never sleeps. And then we wonder why our bodies are exhausted, our hearts anxious, our minds constantly racing. But what if silence isn't empty? What if silence is where the real healing begins? A Zen is saying, only when the waters are still can you see the moon. Translation? You cannot see the truth of your life while your mind is in constant motion. Your body hears every thought, every fear, every rush, every regret. It absorbs the tension like a sponge, and eventually it breaks down. But in stillness, something miraculous happens. The mind stops chasing, the body stops bracing, and the nervous system begins to repair. A powerful 2011 Harvard study found that just 8 weeks of mindfulness meditation increased gray matter density in areas of the brain responsible for learning, memory, emotion regulation, and empathy. The part of the brain associated with stress, it shrank. So silence doesn't just feel good, it restructures the brain. Yet here's the painful truth. Most people are terrified of silence because in silence there's no distraction from the truth. You meet yourself, raw, unfiltered, and often aching. But that's exactly where the healing lives. I once guided a retired man named Harold, 67, through a 10-day silent retreat. He had chronic back pain, tension headaches, and hadn't slept well in years. He admitted he was terrified to be alone with his thoughts. But on day 3, something cracked open. During a walking meditation, he stopped, wept silently, and whispered, "I finally heard what my pain's been trying to say. Not in words, but in sensation, in memory, in grief." He never allowed himself to feel after losing his wife 5 years earlier. And from that moment, his healing began. Not because he did anything, but because he stopped resisting everything. That's what stillness does. It strips away the noise long enough for the truth to be heard. In Buddhism, silence is not emptiness. It is the container of all wisdom. It's where the mind bows to the present and the heart finally speaks. And from a psychological view, this is vital. Stillness is the reset button for your nervous system. It shifts you from fight or flight to rest and repair. It quiets the amygdala, so fear no longer hijacks your biology. It allows trauma to surface gently, to be witnessed and released, not suppressed. The Dalai Lama once said, "Silence is sometimes the best answer, not just in arguments, but in illness, in overthinking, in spiritual fatigue." So ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you sat in complete silence? No phone, no music, no plan, just you and your breath? Most people avoid it because silence doesn't entertain, it awakens. From an energetic perspective, silence aligns your inner vibration with the frequency of peace. And when you dwell in peace, your cells respond, your muscles release, your digestion improves, your sleep deepens, and your immune system activates its natural intelligence. It's not magic, it's coherence, and your body knows how to find it if you give it space. There's another Zen parable about a student who asked his master, "What is the path to liberation?" The master simply closed his eyes and remained silent. Minutes passed. When the student asked again, the master said, "You missed the teaching. It was in the silence." Sometimes the answer you've been begging for only whispers when everything else is quiet. Let's make this real right now. Pause, close your eyes, take one deep breath, feel your body. Notice what tightens and what softens. Don't fix anything. Don't chase calm. Just be with yourself. That 1 minute, it did more for your nervous system than 1,000 anxious thoughts ever could. So why do we keep running from what heals us? Because we've been taught to equate stillness with laziness. But stillness is not inactivity. It is interactivity, the deep, sacred work of becoming whole. Imagine if, instead of flooding your body with fear all day, you gave it 5 minutes of pure presence. How different would your digestion feel? Your pain levels, your blood pressure, your relationships? What would happen if you let silence become part of your medicine cabinet? You don't have to retreat to a mountain. You can practice stillness while sipping tea, while listening to the rain, while sitting on a park bench without your phone. Silence is always available. But most people will keep chasing noise, mistaking stimulation for aliveness. They will run from the very stillness that could have saved them. But not you. You're still here, still listening. And now, you know what silence can do. So tomorrow, start your morning with 1 minute of quiet and watch how your life begins to soften around the edges. Because in that silence, your real life returns. Let's keep going. The next part of our journey is about something deeper than thought. It's about purpose, and why your healing depends on remembering why you still matter. You are not broken, you are not powerless, and you are certainly not trapped by your past, your age, or your pain. You are free because you can choose your next thought, and that next thought can become medicine. Right now, in this very breath, you hold the key. You can spiral deeper into fear, guilt, regret, or you can rise softly into a new inner world. A world where your thoughts are no longer weapons, but healing hands placed over your heart. This isn't just a mindset. This is spiritual power, and you already have it. So I ask you gently, what healing thought will you carry from this moment forward? Is it, I am safe now? Is it, I am allowed to rest? Is it, I am worthy of peace? Comment your new, empowering thought below. Let's create a space where healing begins not just in solitude, but in community. Your words might become someone else's medicine. And if this touched something deep in you, share it, because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more people like you, quietly waking up. Remember, every thought is a seed. Plant gently. Choose healing. You're not too late. You're right on time. And this is just the beginning.